Hello, hello, hello once again. Hey, welcome back to Rightly Dividing the Word. And we're going to continue where we left off with knowing who we are. In the next lesson within this mixture series, it's basically going to be on the topic of I have a personal relationship with Jesus. That's the new buzzword, that's the new millennium term. From old heads to new heads, everybody got this personal relationship. So I have a personal relationship. What's my response? Really? What kind of relationship do you have with God? And that's where the problem comes in. When you ask people what type of relationship they have with God, they can't tell you. And really because they don't really know. But relationship, it's not in the King James Bible in one place. So I asked the question, if that's the case, where are you getting this idea that you have a personal relationship uh, with Jesus? So looking to Amplified is over 34 times there, but it's all in parentheses, which means it was just added in, so it wasn't part of the original text. Then the NIV, the word relationship is there 6 times, 4 times in the Old Testament, 1 time in the Gospel, and 1 time in the Epistle. So once again, I begged the question, what's your biblical basis for your personal relationship that you're claiming? And then if you have it, who's defining your relationship with God? Is it you? Is it that ideology that we was talking about before? Or are you defining your relationship with God? Does your relationship with God look like all your other relationships? Only around for the good times. But we're gonna flip that for Christians. They're only around for the bad times. So when they're up and they're doing good, they don't think about God. What's in it for you? What's the next big prosperity check? What's the next big rent check? You know, what's the next big job that you're promised? What's the next big house that you're promised? What's the next big car that you're promised? And then when it doesn't work, where do you go? Always falling out. And I did this on purpose because you fall out with God at all ways, spiritually, physically, financially, in all ways, you're constantly falling out. Well, I prayed for this healing. I didn't get it. I prayed for my marriage to work. You didn't get it. I prayed for this house. You didn't get it. So you're always mad with God, or is God mad with you? So in all ways, you're constantly falling out. The reciprocal relationship. You do this for me, I do this for you. So God, you didn't do this for me, so I ain't coming to church today. So God, you didn't do this for me. I'm not I'm not doing this today. Getting the point, Dutch buddies. Everybody got to chip in. Nobody gets a free ride. So everybody have to pay their own way. Needy relationships. I think I've covered that thus far, but just in case, you always need a handout for something, needing a shoulder to cry on, needing a ride, needing a, hey man, can I get that cigarette? Hey man, can I get that light? You're in the cafeteria. Hey, I need to borrow that 5 cent. Never have enough for anything. Constantly being in need of something. Then you have these best ends. And I'm not saying best friends. I am truly saying best bends relationships. Because as long as you're better than or what you perceive better than somebody, or you hold the upper hand, then you can hang out with everybody else. But as soon as somebody has what you have or perceive to have something more than you don't have time for them. You know, those best ends. But we're going to keep it moving. So the basic types of relationships are your frenemies and rivals, family relationships, uncle, cousins, husband, wife, mom, dad, friendships that comes in many flavors, come in many styles, acquaintances. Everybody, it's another popular term. Acquaintances, that's an acquaintance. But what I figured out, most acquaintances are people that have acquaintances. They just drop names. Yeah, I know so and so. Yeah, I know Ti's friend so and so. Yeah, I know so and so cousins. What's we call it? You know, those acquaintances. You know, you live on their street, but they don't know about you. All right, sex relationships. We know about those type of relationships. Workplace relationships or professional relationships. These are co-workers, people who you contract with. This is boss subordinate relationships. But nonetheless, you understand professional relationship, teacher student relationships. We understand what those are. Don't have to explain that. Then you have I'm a part of this group, part of this group. I'm on this committee, I'm on that committee. You on every committee, you know everybody committees, family members. No, that's your relationship. Then you have your neighbor relationship, roommates, landlords. Those are called place-based relationships. And then we have the infamous relationship to self. The self, I love myself more than everything, including God. I exalt myself above everything, including God. Everything is about me, my feelings. This is mine. Sound like, look, when I was a little kid, somebody came over to my house. I was like, this is mine. You can't play with this. Mine. That's that relationship to self. And based on social media and watching these reality shows, that is the real relationships of today are the relationships of self theology. Biblically speaking, though, when you talk about your personal relationship with God, if you really look into it or you distill it down, there are basically four types of relationships you can have with God. Now, I'm not saying these are the only relationships that are found throughout the Bible, but when you distill things down, it's only four relationships with God that we can have on a personal level. Okay? Four. Talked about this, that family relationship, but when it pertains to God, it's more of a parental relationship. That friendship, which we talked about again, comes in all kinds of flavors. Enemy, rival, adversarial. So I want to be very clear. God has no enemies. God has no rivals. Despite popular belief, the devil is not God's rival. I would explain that in later lessons, but God has no rival. But the devil can be adversarial. Work professional relationships in relation to a servant type relationship. All right. So I'm going to touch on these and keep it very superficial for now because I was told I have to keep my videos now to 10 minutes. So We're going to make this short and sweet and to the point. That familiar relationship, that parental, this one is going to be the easiest to comprehend because everybody says it. We all know it. He's our Father which art in heaven. Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Now, who is your adversary? And see how I asked that question, your adversary, because once again, God has no adversary. He has no enemies. Nobody is on his level, including the devil. And if you think he is, then you don't believe in Christ nor God. Might well consider yourself a satanic worshiper because the devil is not on his level, period, point blank, end of discussion. But gonna move on. 1 Peter 5:8 clearly defines our adversary, and it states, being sober or be sober, be vigilant, because your adversary, the devil, as a roaring lion, walketh about seeking whom he may devour. Pretty clear there. But let's see what or see how God takes care of our or your adversary. Exodus 23:22. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, meaning God's voice, and do all that I speak, do all that God asks of us, then I will be an enemy unto thy enemy. He will be an enemy unto our enemy, and an adversary or to or unto thine adversaries, or adversary to our adversary. Pretty clear right there. That's how he deals with our adversaries. Then Jesus, behold, from Luke 10:19, I give unto you power to tread on serpents and scorpions. Sound familiar? And over all, not some, not most, and over all the power of the enemy. Not some enemies, all the enemies. Not most of the enemies, all the enemies. And nothing shall by any means hurt you. Mm, ain't God wonderful? But I must move on. So then let's discuss this friendship. All right. Let's see what Jesus says about friendship. John 15:15 states, henceforth I call you not servants, for the servant knoweth not what his Lord doeth. Interesting. Jesus is saying he's no longer going to call us servants or deal with us as servants. But I have called you friends, for all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. And I pause because I really need you all to think about what he just said. So when someone tells you God works in mysterious ways, for a believer, that answer is no, he doesn't. Because in John 15:15, Jesus clearly states, for all things that I have heard of my Father, I have made known unto you. Just think about that as we move on. So next we're going to deal with this servant because most people think of servant as slave master relationship, but Jesus just in the prior slide stated he doesn't call us servants anymore. And he explains why he doesn't call us servants anymore. So in John 13, he's going to explain what it means to be a servant or to serve him. So in your time of study, I expect that you would go back and read the entire chapter of John 13. But this is where we see where Jesus washes Peter and the other disciples' feet. So I want to call your attention to after the task had already been done. And this is what Jesus said. If I then, your Lord and Master, have washed your feet, ye also ought to wash one another's feet. So just think about it this way. For all you people out there you're not on my level, Jesus just said right here, I'm your Lord and Master. You're not on my level. And we already know nobody is on his level. He has no rivals, has no enemy. Nobody can touch him. He's above all. He's the Almighty. But he said, if then, if I then have washed your feet. So he's telling you that although he's above your level, that he still subjected himself to washing someone who is beneath him, their feet. He humbled himself. So for all y'all, ain't nobody on my level, you above. Who is your father? And then Jesus went on to say, for I have given you an example that ye should do as I have done to you. So to serve God, he's telling you, look, if you want to serve me, you must serve others. That is the true servant, a servanthood of being a true disciple of God. So what is your personal relationship with God?